Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back here with Dennis Romero, excited to talk more about SMP. And people are saying, what's SMP? Well, guess what? You're going to learn, you're going to hear, because he's helping you find your inner peace, your love, your self-confidence, building it up. He's the founder and lead practitioner from Vanguard SMP. We're going to talk today about all the work that he does to really help inspire you and, of course, combat hair loss and give you that confidence that you need back. Welcome to the show. How are you, Dennis?
Thanks. It's great to be back. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Probably not as good as you. I know you're in Florida, right? So how's the weather?
I am, yes, but we're suffering because you guys are so cold. It's like 40 degrees down here still.
Oh,
I'm so over it. Like, yeah, I'm so over it.
Well, you're amazing. We've gotten to speak a few times now, and you taught me another way that people are combating hair loss and really helping their self-image. And it's with your program. You also do a training program as well. But tell us a little bit about what Vanguard SMP is all about.
So we are a scalp micropigmentation clinic, which is essentially cosmetic tattooing. And that's been around for a long, long time. SMP has actually only been around for maybe like 11, 12 years, but it has now gotten to a point where it is a legitimate, effective way of solving most forms of hair loss.
See, and you were the first one that ever taught me about this. And seeing is believing. Last week, we got to see a lot of before and after pictures of the people, men and women you're helping. And not just with hair loss, people who have scars on their head, whether it's from a surgery, whether it's a natural scar, you really are doing an amazing work. And for those that do have hair, maybe fine hair, you're also kind of filling in the blanks. Could you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, that's exactly what we do with what we call a density treatment, which is
Uh-huh.
basically just trying to create the illusion of more density and more volume. Usually for the ladies and guys that have had transplants and are not happy with how full it is, because they're usually not. And in terms of scarring, yeah, it's a fantastic way of concealing any scar that you have on your head that is visible and that is upsetting to you.
Yeah, which a lot of people do. And again, seeing is believing. Let's talk a little bit about self-image and hair loss and what that means. And I know, you yourself can relate, your friends, your family, your clients. Let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a prominent physical feature that we have, right? It's square, it's like right in the front, it's right for everybody to see. So because of that, I think because it's difficult to conceal, because you have to jump through all these hoops in order to feel okay when you walk outside. It affects your self-image, it affects your self-confidence. It's always in the back of your head. How do I look in this particular lighting? How do I look in this windy environment, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really detrimental. You're never fully kind of like embodying the spaces that you're at because you're concerned in the back of your head. How do I look? It's different from person to person, but in general, something that is so like obvious and prominent as a physical feature to the person, if it's not there or if it's not right or if they don't feel good about it, it's going to affect their self-image. It's just inevitable that that's the case.
Yep, and you're here really building people's self-confidence back, as you say. You don't have to settle. And is it true you've done the SMP on yourself or had it done on your head? Because I thought it was real hair coming in.
I, I had Yeah, like I had it done and then I do it now myself because, well, I mean, except the back, of course, but the front, yeah, I will sit in the back and keep up there when I need it.
Well, you look great and your clients are all looking great and it's really guaranteed. And we're talking about immediate results. I know some people come in one time, some people come in more than one time, right? If doing a full head. But you also would like to point out, I know that, some people go out and about to do price shopping, to determine what's best for them. And also you want to discuss a little bit about, how this hair loss is affecting us. And some people get botched in a sense.
Right. Well, the thing with price shopping, everybody wants to get the best deal they possibly can, the most for their money, right? The biggest bang for their buck. But the problem is that S&P is really a luxury service. If somebody is paying me, 3, 4, 5, $6,000, to do the top of their head. You know what I'm saying? The execution has to be spot on, right? And when you start like price shopping hard, what you're doing is that you're trying to mitigate that price too much. And then you're going to be in environments and situations with people who are generally starting out. And for that reason, do not have the price point that everyone that is doing it at a very professional level has. And so you have to be careful because this person is making permanent impressions on your head.
Yeah.
And the thing you want is to end up with a flat, spray painted helmet look on your head, which is what you see out there a lot of the time, right? It's just usually my experience has been because the person was price shopping way too hard.
Yeah.
And I've had personal experiences with that. I had a couple come in, and it was a wife and couple team, and she was fussy about the price, and so they just decided to go elsewhere. 3 months down the line, I get another phone call. Can we come in? Right? And I'm like, okay, I hadn't heard from them in a long time. I assumed they'd already had it done. They come in, he's wearing a hat, and she's sitting next to him. He takes off the hat, and she starts sobbing. Because, she was the main influencing factor that made him go in a direction with a practitioner who did not have experience, and he was way too far gone. Like, it was just blackened skin on the top of his head, right? So at that point, I can't wave a wand. You have to go through the laser sessions, and those are quite painful.
And let's be honest, another expense, which now they're paying more than they would have paid to have it done the right way. Yes.
You pay the initial treatment, now you're paying the laser, and now you're paying me to have it redone right.
Yeah, save yourself the headache. That is true. You pay for what you get. And, you're right. Price is a factor. And sometimes people can't afford the best, what they want. But at the same time, there are financing options, right? You lead them down the right path. And also, which you may not know, but he is overly qualified and has all these years of experience, which I'm sure he'll explain again for those new timers who are tuning in today. And you have a training program, let alone he's training people that are working underneath him to get to his level. I mean, you are just spot on, and hence you're very well respected in the industry and are doing such a great job. So Dennis, at this time, would you mind just sharing a little bit of that background and your expertise so people here listening do feel confident saying, wow. I mean, I would say just go look at the pictures you could see, but you also need to know his extensive knowledge in the background and in your background and field, please.
Right. So for me, it was a little bit of kind of like a Cinderella story because it happened that way, right? Like, I trained and then I was asked to stay on board, which never happened, as an apprentice of sorts, right? And because I had that benefit of actually seeing the work done on a daily basis by someone who was highly qualified, that expedited and helped me forward a lot quicker, right? Provided that you have the necessary skill set and eye to fine tune what you're doing on a person's head so it's aesthetically pleasing to their features, right? And so that made me move, that put me on like a fast track, basically, right? And so I cut the line, and sorry, not sorry, and able to get traction a lot faster. And and so that's basically what happened. And then from there, I gained so much experience, built a portfolio, and then I launched my own brand.
Wow.
Right. Having established a good reputation and a reputation for excellent work. And then I expanded into my training program because I knew what was lacking in standard trainings for students, leaving them in a place where they are still lost. Because after you do a training, it's not like you just do the training and then you're like fantastic at it, right? Like, there's a learning curve, because even though it's something as elementary as making little impressions on someone's scalp, you'd be surprised how difficult it is, especially when you're creating something out of nothing, a full bald head, and you're going to try to make it look like it has with like tattoo ink. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's quite the challenge, and you are not confronted with that until you're actually doing it. So it requires a little bit of stamina to get through those first 6 months to a year.
Wow. And how many people do you have, training with you now? And do you mind sharing a little bit about the training process, especially with you? Because clearly you are well qualified, certified, and probably churning out some of the best in the business, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think the main component that distinguishes really, really good instructors are the fact that they still keep communications open once training is over, so that the person feels a lot safer. The majority of trainings, you pay what you get for. You paid for a training, you got your training, good luck, right? Like you learned the application of scalp micropigmentation, but there are someone is trying to open a business, never having come from that background. There are so many moving parts that the person is overwhelmed, and that's why the vast majority of people don't really move very forward with the whole process of actually starting their own business, their own practice, and being successful. They're stumped because they just don't know, and there are too many questions and uncertainties. And then people who have a false sense of confidence, and there's a lot of those too, think that they're going to go. I know firsthand that they're not ready to really
Yeah.
tackle anything serious and substantial, when dealing with a client.
Got it. Vanguard's, that's vanguardsmp.com. I want to make sure you guys have his website. You can find out more information about him, his team, how the process works, see the before and after pictures, or better yet, go to his Instagram page. Would you mind sharing how we find you there?
Yeah, Vanguard, SMP across the board. TikTok, no more TikTok. Instagram, Facebook, and our website. Those are the three main ways that you can get a hold of us,
And
and you
speaking
can
of
see what the
botches,
options are for you, because
yeah,
there's usually a good option.
sorry, I think we're cutting in and out a little bit. I'm sorry if
Yep,
I'm
go ahead.
overstepping. But speaking of botches again, I know we
You
brought that up before about botched jobs, in a sense, the similar SMP, but there's even botched hair transplant jobs, or right, that you've helped correct and fix. I know on the last episode you actually showed me a few scars of the old original way they did the hair transplant, and now people are really going bald, and it left some really, sometimes there's one line, but
Yeah.
there's like a whole bunch in another. Like that's so sad. Like nobody prepped them for that. Like, hey, just letting you know, you might really go bald. This is not really permanent, and here it goes. And then they're left scarred, and that's a botch job. But you have come in and you're able to repair the scarring in a sense. You camouflage it, is a better word, and it looks seamless.
Right, right. Right. It looks it's seamless, but it's dependent on the scar. That's an easy camouflage, but sometimes there's a dimensional aspect to it. Like, some parts are raised, some parts are a little sunken into the skin because the surgeon was a sloppy workman.
Cutter.
Like he didn't screw up properly. And so you have a scar that is not flat, it's not flush. So that is more challenging because there's a dimensional aspect to it, right? So we can't fix that unless we go in with micro needling over the top. Dry needling, we will dry needle it in order to get it as flat as possible. We want to break down the tissue so that it becomes much more workable and the outcome is much, much, much more pleasing to the client because they're not going to see it. But in general, they love it, even if it doesn't conceal completely, because it looks so much better than an obvious white scar or multiple scars spanning the back of your head. So yeah, that is something that people are really, really self-conscious about because it's so obviously glaring, and it draws attention, it draws looks, it draws comments. And again, it goes back to that self-image that sort of like cuts away and cuts into the person's self-image because they're aware that everybody else is aware. How can they not be?
Wow. And can I ask you about, the years of, training and the years of changes in the business? What has changed overall? And then I want to discuss the future as well, because I'm just assuming there's better technology now, better ink that's lasting better. I don't know. You tell me. What have you seen? Give me the history of SMP, and, how it's evolved over the past, 20, 30 years since you've been doing it, let alone what's to come for the future.
Right. Well, I mean, it started off like trial and error, right? As scary as that sounds, somebody had the idea to finally use a tattoo gun and put some pigment on the head and attempt to make it look like hair. The primary problem was that everyone was working with black only and diluting the pigment based on the client's skin tone. The lighter the client, the higher the dilution. The darker the client's skin, the lower the dilution, right? But that is still too basic to address all the different nuances and undertones people have in their skin, right? You can have 5 white people in front of you, but there are distinctions and differences in the tone of their skin. And it's the same for Latino, it's the same for Black, it's the same for Asian. All those nuances need to be addressed. And so it has to improve, and it has improved incrementally on the margins, which is what it's still doing, but it is a gradual progression towards a much better technique and execution, right? So introducing color is a big important factor, because that way you can pinpoint, right, a lot easier and with much more accuracy the specifics of that person's skin. And so that's where I think it's growing. Like, I started off doing it just with Black as well, and it can be done, but it requires a very, very high skill set to not mess somebody up, because you are using a one size fits all, and nobody is a one size fits all, right? And so because I've introduced color, I'm able to tailor the treatment to you, let's say, right? It would be specific to you. And so the understanding of the pigments at the molecular level, at the level of chemistry, like I said last time, so you understand how the different components degrade on a different timeline, then you can preemptively take the steps so that it ages well. And when they come back, they're in a place where you can just give them that initial pop and send them on their way happy again.
I love it. Well, thank you for that. We still got more time in the show, but let's remind everyone how we can reach out to you directly. And is there a charge for a consultation if someone's interested in coming to see you?
So we have no charge. Basically, it's a complimentary consultation.
Awesome.
We're not, we don't push it. You come, we give you our information. We tell you what the options are. We tell you what the outcome will be. And then it's on the person to really decide. So we try to make it as easy as possible for our clients.
Clearly, you love what you do. And I'm telling you, seeing is believing. Last week, when I got to see all the before and afters, you just got to go on the website, go on Instagram, you see even more. But oh my goodness. Well, what else do you want people to know about you, Dennis, about SMP, the future, your training program, and of course, your passion for this? I mean, clearly, your love and passion is above and beyond. So that's always important in finding someone who's well qualified. You're in it for the right reasons, and you have proven yourself time and time again that this is beautiful. And people might say, well, hold on, I get it done. Do I have to come back for a touch up? In reality, what's the answer to that? Probably in the future, right? Because nothing's really permanent.
Even a body art tattoo eventually will
Yeah,
start, and it needs, it needs a little love and care.
exactly.
So it requires that you do your due diligence and research the person that you're going to use, and just dot all your I's and cross all your T's, because a lot of states do not have regulation. And so my grandma can take an online course today and practice next week if she likes from her basement, and that's what you're trying to avoid, right? And that's what I try to teach my students, because people come here, and often I train students who have already had training elsewhere, but feel like something was lacking. And we try to just be as thorough as possible, because it's like I said, elementary on the surface, but it's a real pain in the actually apply it to the skin. And so we want to make sure they have all the practical experience they need, right? That they work on live skin, that we also hit the business aspect of what is going to be required if you are serious, right? Most people don't have a realistic expectation of the effort and the investment that is going to need to be made in order to run a business, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are other factors, even outside of just the artistry of it, right? If you do not have the moxie to set aside a budget, right? To budget, a marketing budget, then you're not ready to do this, because everything is marketing. And if you want to compete, you have to be aggressive. One of the best pieces of advice that a friend gave me that did marketing for Disney when I was opening my business, he said, The biggest mistake people make is when they start marketing campaigns and see no return on the investment initially, they freak out.
And they
They panic
stop.
because you have thousands of dollars going out a month and you're not gaining any traction. He says the mistake they make is take the foot off the gas. At
Too
that point,
early.
what you're supposed to do is put the pedal to the metal, because it's now or never. This is it, right? And I found myself in that exact position. It was like months 3 or 4, and I'm like, oh my God, like what's happening? There's nobody
Yeah.
coming. There's nobody coming through the door, right? Like, but then like that's when I said screw it. Like I doubled and then I tripled my marketing budget, right? And because I came in that bold and that hard, understanding there were competitors already established, I had an established portfolio, but I didn't have an established brand. And so I had to come in like balls to the wall because I had to compete, right? Those first months were like a
Yeah.
back alley cat fight, right?
Yeah.
You
Yes.
right.
Absolutely. Survival of the fittest out there in the
Absolutely.
alley. I got you, Dennis.
And that's true for every business. When you open a business, there's gonna be struggle. There's gonna be anxiety. You have to be able to mitigate that, and you have to have the fortitude and stamina to just keep going.
Oh my goodness. Well, I love this. Your work is beautiful. We still have 5 more minutes in your show. What other aspects do you think are important to bring up? I do have one other question in the meantime. We keep talking hair loss, hair loss, hair loss for men and female, but there's also medical conditions, qualified by hair loss, not just, people suffering with things like, is it alopecia? Um,
Alopecia.
what else?
A
The,
lot
the,
of
the
women.
female pattern
A lot of
baldness, but these are
this. Women lose a lot of hair sometimes during pregnancy. It
childbirth.
doesn't always come back.
Yep.
There's stress loss. There's of course genetics. There's other diseases that cause it, other medications that cause it. So clients come to you from all different situations in regards to their hair loss, but they're all looking just to feel better and
Yeah.
not have to deal with it. Confronted by it day by day by day, which wears on their self-esteem. Honestly, yeah.
And by the way, where are your offices located as well?
So we are in Orlando, Florida. We are opening Tampa this month. We
Yay.
have Silver Springs, Los Gatos, California, and
Wow.
Vegas, Nevada.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Melissa
And we
Singh.
service areas. We train all of those areas as well. And my business partner, and Benea, we kind of tag team the students. She's fantastic at the business aspect of it. She's a numbers girl. She's a numbers girl. And she's just good at strategizing a person's new business. And that's another component of our business, of our training program that is unique, because we actually go in depth into what you're going to actually have to do. We offer a mentorship where we actually run your business for the first 6 months almost, right? Exclusively. Like we handle all your calls, we handle all your sales, because we want you to learn from us so that when we take off the training wheels, you're not going to fall, right?
You're well balanced.
So we really go above and beyond in that department to ensure. Absolutely, yeah. So Benea is definitely the numbers girl. I'm gonna be the wild card because you never know what you're gonna get. And so we work fantastic as a team, and I think any student that comes to us will benefit greatly.
I saw
Not to
your
tout
picture
ourselves or
together
pat
last
myself on the
week.
back,
No, you
but we do the
should.
damn thing.
Absolutely. A beautiful girl. I saw her when we shared your screen last
Yeah.
week. And just to
Say
also
again?
mention, last week when we shared your screen as on Instagram, I saw her. There was a picture of the two of you on your page.
Yes, I'll bring her on next time. And you can chat with her. She's funny. She's a hoot. She's a fireball. And I'm actually blessed that she's my partner.
Awesome. And review-wise, great reviews.
Can you hear me?
Alexis D says, Dennis is one of the best SMP artists in the biz. Melissa Singh, great experience with talented artists. Looking forward to my appointments. Wouldn't trust anyone else to do the service. Highly recommended. Also, Julio mentions that you're amazing and you did an incredible job. Very professional. Since the first visit, you explained everything in detail and really cared about him. And every section, you were very detailed. Highly recommend you and the staff. from day one felt the confidence to have him work on the SMP, and the job is done. And wow, impressive to say the least. But it's all about positive reviews, and obviously you guys have a lot. So vanguardsmp.com. Dennis Romero, want to thank you for joining us again, and looking forward to hopefully next time we get to meet her as well, your partner in crime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and we'll cut up next time.
Thank you. And also just want to mention one thing, the importance of, after this is done, females, men, sunblock on the head and hats out in the sun, right? To prevent fading.
Absolutely. Yeah, just common sense. Like,
yeah.
If there's a sun outside, you don't want to bake in it.
Yeah.
Just to take care of your skin, basically.
Yeah, skin
common sense
and
goes
of course
a long
the
way.
work. All right, good. Making
Absolutely.
sure we remind everyone. All right. I bought a sunproof hat over the summer online. There's like fabrics on Amazon. And I put a sunproof on over my face if I lay out in the sun. Not a bad idea. I'm sure they have sunproof, like real hats, like ball caps too. All right. I'm just on a rant here. Dennis, pleasure. vanguardsmp.com. Go to the website, go to the Instagram page, check them out, and check out the training program if you're interested in learning. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the mytuner-radio, online radio box, and simpleradio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.